about 10 times the Robotech convention. And I told my brother and my best friend, wait, it'll never, no good. No one's crazy enough. But it just kept gnawing at me, and I just thought, hey, there needs to be a day. Back in 1985, I remember I was a high school student and running from school to go watch Robotech at 4:30 on, what was it, Channel 13 here? Either one. But it came on, and I remember the first, it's like you just had shows like Voltron or G.I. Joe and all those shows that just, just the kiddie stuff. And then Robotech came along, and I remember watching the 90-minute premiere on March 4th, 1985, and I thought, I remember my first reaction, kill people in this thing. And that was the first thing that struck me. And then then they started with a regular series, and they just kept going. You saw Rick Hunter go from being this amateur punk to becoming a dignified military leader. And you just saw the characters progressing. You'd never seen that before in an animated show. And to think that they were able to carry this through 85 episodes, and then this show is still around 10 years later, and it's still carrying on with the comic books, with the novelizations, and it seems like the Robotech story is not going to end. And it didn't end when it just came when they left the air in the late 80s. But anyway, I just want to reintroduce some of the guests of honor here, and we'll start with Alexander Kenworthy. Then we have David Milburn, the West Louis Nichols. Unfortunately, Dave won't be with us for the rest of the weekend. I'm glad that he showed up on such short notice. Next we have Arlen Rivers, the composer. And we have Bill Spengler, author of the Robotech Return to MACROSS. Then we have the Walter brothers, but I couldn't find them, so they're here too. Okay, and next we have the original Robotech master himself, Carl Macek. Next we have Greg Snagoff, the infamous voice of Chiron and Scott Bernard. And we have the voice of everybody's favorite hero, Roy Boker. And then we have James Lucino, the novelist, who has written 20 books. But Robotech really meant a lot to me when I was growing up. Just that it treated me with intelligence and just was able to tell a good story with believable characters that you cared for. I remember when Roy Boker died, and so everybody sees that as a watermark. How could you kill such a cool character? And I just was stunned in front of my TV when I watched it, and they were able to carry this through 85 episodes, and that it's still around to this day. Back then, I thought maybe Robotech will still be around. And I knew Carl Macek way back when he owned his little comic store in California, and well, it's been quite a journey, I think, for all of us. I'd just like to invite him to come up on stage and say a few words.
I can remember the Bateman boys coming into my comic shop on the weekend questions constantly at that time. Still wanted to know why these things were happening, previews of what was going on, so they could have an inside track on what's happening.
Your mic.
Not working. Switch. There you go. Can you hear me now? Do I have to tell the story again?
Yeah.
So I remember the Bateman boys coming into my comic shop on week 5 episodes of Robotech trying to grill me as what's going to happen the following week. So I'd give them a little insight. Sometimes I'd tell them what was really going to happen. Sometimes I'd lie. It was really interesting because it was a unique opportunity for somebody like me to make programming. It wasn't like Robotech wasn't a cartoon I was making, but I was making programming and then have the opportunity on the weekends, I'd come to a store and see the people that I was making it for and get feedback. It was a unique opportunity for me, and I found it to be eminently fascinating, and it was always a really important learning process for me, and I've never forgotten the fact that we don't make these things for ourselves, we make it for you. And it's, you know, a lot of times people kind of get down on people like me when I make stuff because I theoretically change things, and it's not exactly the way it was in the original Japanese versions or this or that. But the bottom line for all of us when we made these things was to entertain you. It wasn't to satisfy some ego that we had. It was to entertain you and entertain people like you wherever people would watch this stuff. And the only disappointment that I had in doing Robotech was that sometimes our ambition to be entertaining was not matched by the marketing or the exploitation of the product that we were dealing with, because at the time that today seemed common to us, but at the time that we were doing it, very few people ever did what was called single session recordings. Most times there would be 8 people in a room that all start recording, and it would never really come off because it would kind of veer off track, and it would never have the kind of momentum that comes from an intimate relationship with a director and an actor one-on-one to get to polish each performance in a very smooth way. And when we were doing Robotech, I think it was the first series, if I'm not mistaken, that was done that way. And it was a unique process, which none of us really knew was going down. As we were making it, we thought we were doing cool stuff, but we didn't know that it would be as interesting 10 years later. The fascinating thing was we all worked harder than we should have, and for very little money, $12 an hour or whatever. I actually didn't get paid for the first 6 or 7 months of Robotech because I had my own comic book shop, which I was making much more money than Harvard Book could pay me. So I didn't really want the money. I just did it because I was so tired of seeing cartoons that would come out that would be cheesy. Like, I mean, some of you may like Voltron, some of you may like some of these other things, but when you look at it, Transor Z or whatever it was on at the time, and I sat there and I would think, God, if people could just do this right just one time, it would really be significant. And I used to work in the motion picture industry for years, and I burned out and I left. And I opened up a comic book shop in Orange. I was like sitting there, you know, picking my teeth and, you know, reading comic books, and just I was very happy. And one guy from Harmony Gold comes into my store one day and bought some cells from underseating counter. I had no idea what this guy wanted. He bought some artwork from me. And I said, so what do you do? Why are you buying this stuff? So my dad runs an animation company, and we have these cartoons. I said, so what other stuff do you have? And he mentions MACROSS. And I knew what it was, and I said, can I license this stuff from you guys and make some points? Well, I don't know, I gotta ask my dad. So I thought, man. So I got a call about a day later. It says, yeah, I guess if you want to try to license this stuff, you can, but we have no plans to put it on TV or anything, but you can license it. So about 2 weeks later, I came in with T-shirts, all sorts of stuff, and I had checks for about, I don't know, $25,000 or $30,000. And I wanted to get my commission. And they said, like, what do you know that we don't know? And I said, I know that these programs are really cool, and if you did it right, you could have something that would have some lasting impact. And Robotech happened. And I remember the first time I met Greg, I met him with Bob Barron, and everybody was suspicious of me. Like, who is this weird guy that wants to do these things differently? Because I did not want to do it the way it had been done before. And I was not going to compromise. I wasn't going to let these guys who I knew had talent just cheese out something, because they were working on a thing called the Magical World of Gigi at the time. Do you remember that? And I was looking at it and thought, man.
So are we.
Yeah. But the thing was, everybody was good, and everybody knew that they were good, but they were just doing business, and no one really ever inspired anybody to do something. So I kind of came in like some goofy, hayseed